Welcome to another episode of The Cynical Writer. In today's episode, I will be talking about self-publishing versus traditional publishing, and why I think self-publishing is the better option. The problem with traditional publishing companies, especially today, is that they only seek to publish books that they think will be commercially viable, and that will make them as much money as possible. This also goes for the major movie studios. And why would I want to deal with companies that have that sort of attitude? The main reason to publish books is to demonstrate quality writing, to reveal quality writing to the world. And if a publishing company isn't going to do that, then why would I have anything to do with them? I wouldn't. Another reason why I dislike traditional publishing companies is because I hate gatekeepers. Why do I need approval from someone else? If I think my writing is good, well, that's all that matters to me. I don't need a gatekeeper to tell me whether my writing is good or bad. But the thing is, they don't really tell you if your writing is good or bad. That's another problem with traditional publishing companies, is that I used to send, query letter after query letter out to various publishing companies, and I would have to wait 6 months to a year sometimes to hear a response. If I have to wait that long, I deserve a response. I can understand, if a company only took 2 or 3 weeks to respond, why they might not have the time. But after 6 months, a company has enough time to respond, especially if they're a small publishing company. I understand why maybe a big publishing house wouldn't have time, but even the smaller publishing companies won't usually respond. Or if they do respond, they'll send you basically a standard response that they send out to everybody. It won't be a personal response. And that's the problem. And another reason why I hate traditional publishing companies is if they never tell me what's wrong with my writing, then I'll never learn. Therefore, I'll keep sending the same thing out, and I'll keep making the same mistakes, and I'll never learn from those mistakes because they won't tell me what the problem is. And I think that's because traditional publishing companies in general are very lazy. They pick out the things that they think will make them a lot of money, and they basically disregard everything else. And in today's modern age, I think that one of the major problems with traditional publishing companies is they won't market your book either. They expect authors to do a lot of the marketing. Well, then, why are you even working with me? One of the main benefits, supposedly, of signing with a traditional publishing company is that they will do a lot of the marketing, so the author doesn't have to. If the author has to do all of the marketing, then why would they even sign with the traditional publishing company? And the traditional publishing company has a lot more resources available to them. They can pay advertisers. They can get an author's book inside of magazines. They can do a lot of different things with an author's book. So it's silly to think that an author should do all of the work, especially when an author doesn't have nearly as many resources available to them. I mean, it's just silly, and it's almost like traditional publishing companies, they want new authors to fail. I mean, it really doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. To me, the only benefit of signing with a traditional publishing company is that you get your book edited for free, because editing can be very difficult. But that's really the only benefit, because self-published authors typically have to pay for an editor. Of course, I have to do all of the editing myself because I can't afford an editor. I have no money whatsoever. Now, some people think that if you can't afford an editor, then you shouldn't be publishing. Well, if I had that attitude, then none of my books would ever be published, because I'm not going to have money for quite some time. So, and another thing is I distrust editors, because they often try to commercialize and standardize writing. They try to take the author's original voice out of the writing, and that is a major, major problem. So I stick with self-publishing because ultimately it gives me more freedom, and it also means higher royalties, because the typical amount that traditional companies pay authors is around 10% of the royalties. Now that's a very small and pathetic amount. Don't get me wrong, Amazon takes a lot of money as well, but traditional publishing companies will rip you off even more. So that's why I go with self-publishing, because it just allows more freedom. One of the major drawbacks, though, is that a lot of people still disrespect self-publishing. They think that it's not legitimate, which is unfortunate, because self-publishing really isn't any different than filmmakers who make independent films. And some people think, oh, well, self-published books, they might have certain, problems. They might have certain grammar problems or whatever. Well, first of all, not all self-published books have problems like that. And also, the same could be said of independent films. There are some really good independent films that have poor picture quality, where the sound isn't very good, where the acting isn't the best, or they might have one or two has-been stars that star in the independent film. And other than that, you just have amateur actors. So this whole idea that self-publishing is illegitimate is just ridiculous. Yes, most self-published books aren't going to be as fancy as traditionally published books, but it shouldn't matter. What matters at the end of the day is the quality of the writing and the quality of the story. That's what matters at the end of the day. All of that other stuff, it's nice to have a good cover, but that's not everything. I actually don't judge a book by its cover. Literally, I do not judge a book by its cover, because I have read some books that have amazing covers, but the quality of the writing is terrible. So I think that people need to stop being so shallow and snobbish and stuck up. Again, because I don't need anyone to tell me that my writing is good. If I believe in my writing, that's enough. Some people, they look for validation from traditional publishing companies. I don't need that validation. I already have it. It's nice to be complimented. It really is, but that isn't everything. I have to please myself at the end of the day. If people like my work, that makes me happy. It makes me tremendously happy. But I have to like my work at the end of the day. If everyone hates my work but I like it, then that's enough for me. If people like my work, that's just a bonus. And I think more writers need to have that attitude. I think some people, they use writing as a way to basically get over their insecurities. And I've done that in the past, I really have. But they need to realize that what matters is that you are satisfied with your work. That's all that matters. And of course, I'm hardly ever satisfied with my work. But I try to get better each and every day. I remember, when I was in high school, the first time I tried to publish a book, it was a very difficult experience. It was a very awkward experience, because I went the traditional publishing route, and I sent queries out to many different agents, many different publishers. And this was a time before I had an iPhone, so I had to wait all day at school, and then during lunch I would sneak into the library and get on the computer and check my email to see if anyone had responded. And sometimes they did, and sometimes they didn't. I remember one time, though, I got 5 rejections in one day, and that was that did a number on me. It really was detrimental to my self-confidence. But again, you can't let that get you down. You have to try to remain positive. So I hope that you have enjoyed my perspective on self-publishing and traditional publishing. And next week I will return with a different topic. And until then, goodbye.